So this guy's sitting at a bar, right? He bangs on the bar, he orders another drink. The bartender comes over, he says, I can't serve you no more, you had enough. Yeah, he says, go to hell. He gets up, he looks at the door, he goes to take a step, falls right on his face. Pulls himself up, takes another step, falls right down on his face. He says, there's the door right there. If I can only make it out the door, I'll be all right. He said, the hell with it. He crawls across the floor. Everybody's watching him. He crawls out the front door. He pulls himself up on the building. There's his house right across the street. Yeah, I'll be okay. He goes to take a step. He falls right on his face. Does that 2 or 3 times. He said, oh, the hell with it. Crawls across the street on the sidewalk, goes into his house, up to his bed, climbs on the bed, falls asleep. Wakes up in the morning. His wife is there cleaning the room. She looks at him. She says, you got drunk again last night, huh? He said, I did. I did. He said, how'd you know? She said, Sean called from the bar. You left your wheelchair there. Now, if that's not like alcohol, it makes us think we could do things we can't do. The guy's a cripple. He thinks he could walk. My name's Danny. I'm a cocaine addict. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Obviously, I'm from the States. But I feel like part of your fellowship here in the UK. You put up all those things, and it's amazing because Danny G and I were downstairs figuring stuff out. The first time I came here and spoke, there was 6 meetings in the whole of England. And you had Scotland up there. They had 128 meetings. The first time I spoke at their first, before they even had a convention, they had 2 meetings in Scotland. So, power to you guys. Good deal. So I feel part of you guys, and you're always with me even when I'm home. So thank you for having me here. I appreciate that. So anyway, I guess, I don't even remember what year it was, but I've been out here many times over the years, and there's a lot of new people here. I bring show and tell to share with you guys. How many people are new in their first year of sobriety? Raise your hand. Oh, wow. Welcome. Very cool. Very cool. How many of you people, this is the first convention you're at? Oh, wow. Wow. Well, let me tell you, there's no doubt about it, I'm going to be the best damn convention speaker you ever heard. I think my job and my hope is that I get to touch one person tonight or today. That's what I look to do when I get this opportunity. It's just to touch one person, somebody that might take something that I share with and mean something for them and help them on this journey. That's my goal. So who that person is, I don't know. I'll share with you my analogy of cocaine. To me, cocaine was like the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. And I could be like in a nightclub with 2,000 people all around me, and there she is, all the way at the other end of the club, my lady cocaine, and I have to have her. And I make my way through the crowd, through all the obstacles in my life, and I get up to her, and I get lucky. I get to take her out of there. And we jump in a cab, we're going to Hub Place, and all the way in the cab ride to Hub Place, I got this thing going on in my stomach, just anticipating how good the loving is going to be. And we go up to Hub Place, and we make love, and just like I thought, it was the best love making ever had. If that's for me, tell me I'm in a meeting. And after we make love, I get up to go to the bathroom. She reaches under the bed and grabs a bat and pow, cracks my head. Takes all my money, all my dope, all my jewelry. And I come to about 10 minutes later, and I stagger to my feet, and I'm dizzy, and I'm hurting, and I'm bleeding. And the first thing I say is, where is she? I got to find her. I know she didn't mean that. I know she loves me. And then I buy the lie one more time, and I tell myself, when I find her this time, it's going to be different. Now, if you can relate to that, you're in the right place. So for you people that are new, I want to tell you what we do here in Cocaine Anonymous. And I use an analogy. There's a guy walking through the woods, and he falls in a hole. And he's climbing to try to get out. He can't climb out of the hole. He's falling back down, and he's yelling, "Help! Help! I need help!" And there's a doctor walking through the woods, and he hears the yelling, and he goes over, and he looks down in the hole. He sees the guy. He writes him a prescription. He throws it in the hole, and he keeps going. The guy's got a prescription, but he can't get out of the hole. He's yelling, "Help, please, I need help. I can't get out of here." About 10 minutes goes by, there's a priest walking through the woods. He hears the guy yelling, he goes over, he looks down, he says a prayer for the guy. Guy's got a prayer, he's got a prescription, but he can't get out of the hole. 5 minutes or so go by, there's a recovered member of Cocaine Anonymous walking through the woods. And he hears the yelling, and he goes over, and he looks, and immediately he jumps in the hole. And the guy says to him, "Now look what you did. Now we're both in here." And the recovered member of Cocaine Anonymous says, "Yeah, but I've been here before. I know how to get out of here." And that's what we do here in these rooms. Where you're at, you new people, we've been before. We know how to get out. There's a way out. We know what it is. Now, don't get me wrong. We're not going to do the work for you. You got to do the work, but we'll give you our hand and we'll help you. And we'll show you the way. So when I share with you tonight, I always share when I get this opportunity about 4 things that are important to me in life. 4 things that I really believe in. In no particular order, but I believe in God. I have a loving God in my life that I have a great personal relationship with. It's not a generic God. You know, I ask people all the time, God is love. Yeah, let's get a little more personal. What does that mean to you? So I have a very personal relationship with God in my life today. Works well for me. I don't pretend that I know all about God, but what I know about God works for me, the relationship I have with God. So I believe in God. I believe in angels. I've always believed in angels. I believe there's angels all around us, right here, right now, and everywhere. I truly believe that. I believe in miracles. I'm a miracle. I don't know most of you people, but I bet you that this room is full of miracles. Because most of us shouldn't be here. And the last thing that I believe in is the reason that I believe in the first 3. I believe in Cocaine Anonymous. Cocaine Anonymous has given me a life, and it's allowed me to get in touch with a God. It's allowed me to realize the angels that are around me, and it allowed me to understand what type of miracle that I really am. And if it weren't for Cocaine Anonymous, I wouldn't have those other things. So I quickly, I tell you what it was like for me. I was born at a very early age. Sometimes it takes a minute for people to get that one. No, really, gambling and women and booze was a big problem in my life. Then I turned 10 and things really got bad. I want to show you, so I brought show and tell. I tell you I brought show and tell because I found this thing maybe 25 years ago. I share this with you so you know how this thing really works. My sobriety date is November 21st, 1991. Wow. And I only tell you that because as I share my story with you, I want you to understand it was a time that I couldn't go 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes was unheard of. I couldn't go 5 minutes. If I was awake, I couldn't go 5 minutes without getting another hit or a drink. And I've been free all these years. It's amazing. So, but there were many signs along the way. If the voices in your head are grinding their teeth, that's a sign that maybe you're doing too much dope. But I want to hold this up for you. It's something I tell you, I found this a long time ago. It's a picture of an old lady. It says, before 6 beers. I don't know how many of you can see that. Before 6 beers, right? And you just take the same picture and you just turn it upside down. It says, after 6 beers, and she becomes a princess. So some of you guys maybe can relate if you went to bed with Cindy Crawford and woke up with Lassie, you know. Maybe you got a problem with alcohol and drugs, I don't know. My earliest memories is I'm born and raised in New York City in the Italian neighborhood, Little Italy. And I come from a loving family. I can't stand here and tell you that my mom or my dad were alcoholic or addicts, and you know, I come from a very loving family. There was a time in my life when I was a little kid when I knew peace, and I was at peace with myself and one with the world. Now, I never said, Danny, you're at peace with yourself and one with the world, but I had no cares, no worries, no anxieties. I was a kid, and I couldn't wait to wake up and to hit the streets and to live life, because life was good for me. And my mother was a beautiful woman. She would hug me, and she'd say, I love you, Danny, and I'd say, I love you too, Ma. My dad was a big, strong, handsome man, and he would hug me, and he'd say, I love you. And I'd say, I love you too, Pop. My grandmother was from the other side, from this side of the pond, and she would hug me. She'd say, Benesad, Danny. I'd say, Benesad, Noni. I love you too, Grandma. And life was good for me. And one night, I was 10 years old. I had 3 brothers. We all slept in the same room. I was 10 years old, and I don't know why, but that night I couldn't sleep, and my brothers were all sleeping, and there was a knock at the door, and my mother went to the door, and I went to the hallway to see who it was, and there was a policeman there, and he was there to tell her that there was a shootout and that my dad was dead. And I had never experienced death before. And within a half an hour, my place was full of people. The men were in one corner whispering, the women were in another corner crying. And I walked into the living room, and I walked up to my uncle, and I said, what's going on? And he said, your daddy's dead, Danny. And I said, what does that mean? He said, that means he's not coming back no more. You know, 10 years old. And I want to tell you, I didn't know it then, and I didn't know it all the years until I crawled into these rooms and started doing this deal. But that was the dividing line in my life. That was the moment that I started building walls in me. And ever since then, like my mother would hug me, she'd say, I love you, Dan. I said, I love you too, Ma, on the outside. But on the inside, it was, nah, we ain't doing that. My grandmother would hug me, she'd say, Benesad. And I'd say, Benesad, Noni, on the outside. But not on the, and the inside, it was shut down. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is because one of the big things that happened for me in recovery, working through this deal, is that when I got here, I did not have the ability, I did not know how to allow you to love me. And I want to tell you, I sponsor lots of people, I do workshops all over the world, and I've met thousands of people that have the same problem. We don't know how to let people love us. I was always good at Christmas time. I had to give everybody everything, and birthdays, and they'd say, what do you want? And I said, I don't want nothing. And I've been fortunate in my life. I've had women in my life that want to be part of it. They say, I love you, Dad. I love you too. That's a nice shirt. No, that's a nice shirt. See, because I don't know how to take that. I do today, but I didn't when I got here. I did not know how to allow you to love me. And that is a major triumph that I've received from this deal, working this deal. And I'm not going to go through a ton of war stories and none of that stuff. You know, the insanity of this disease is I can't stop doing it, period. I don't want to do it. I swear I ain't going to do it no more, but I can't stop doing it. I just can't stop. I'm one of these people that, you know, I've got 3 daughters and 4 granddaughters. God's got a sense of humor, right? Seven girls on my life. Well, only my 2 oldest daughters were the only ones that ever saw me high or drunk or anything. My oldest granddaughter was here in England in March with me. Some of you guys met her. She's 28 years old. She's never seen me drink. The miracle of this program. But I'm the type of guy that always said I love my kids more than anything. I've always had, even through all my addiction and all my troubles, I've always had a good relationship with my daughters. Right to today. And I always said I love my kids more than anything, but that's not the truth. I didn't understand that wasn't the truth until I got sober and started doing these steps and working on myself. And I realized I loved that dope more than my children. Man, that was a tough nut to swallow. I didn't love my kids more than anything. Dope came first. Kids came second. Well, sometimes they came third because that money had to come second, so I get more dope, and then my kids. So the insanity of this disease is I just can't stop doing it. And I could remember hundreds of times coming home 3 o'clock in the morning after being out for 3 days, dirty, need a shave, eyes sunken in, cheeks sunken in, smelly. And I'd come in the house and I'd tiptoe, because I don't want to wake her up, my wife. I don't want to wake anybody up. So I tiptoe to the bedroom and I just kick my shoes off real quiet like. And I'd get into bed. Sometimes I wouldn't even take my clothes off because I don't want to make noise. I just get into bed and lay in bed and take a deep breath and hold my breath, right? Because I don't want to wake her up. And I'd think about all that money that I spent, that maybe tomorrow somehow it's going to be under my pillow, all that money. Or my wife is going to say, "You're home, I've missed you." And my kids are going to jump on my lap and say, "Daddy, Daddy, we love you." And I'd lay there for hours until I'd pass out. And I'd come to the next day and I'd look under my pillow, there'd be nothing there. And I hear her in the kitchen, cooking something in the kitchen. I'd get up and I'd walk into the kitchen. And she'd look at me, she'd say, "You son of a bitch, you did it again." And the kids would hear my voice and they'd run into the kitchen and they'd look at me and I looked like death warmed over. And they'd go back in their room. And I'd go to the bathroom and I'd look in the mirror and I'd look at my eyes and I'd tell myself, "What is the matter with you, Danny? Why can't you stop this?" And then as with every fiber of my being, I'd look at myself and I'd swear, this is it. I'm not going to do this again. And meant it with every fiber of my being. What is the matter with you? You're weak. Stop this. Look what you're doing. And then I'd take a shower and I'd shave and I'd brush my teeth and I'd get something to eat and I'd get dressed and I had to go out to get money. And she'd say, "Where you going?" I said, "I got to get money." She'd say, "Don't go out. Stay home." No, it's all right. I'll be. And 3 days later, I'd be tiptoeing back in the house again. That is the vicious cycle for the end of my using. And I think no matter what your drug of no choice is, no matter how much or how little you did, I think the end result is the same for all of us. We wind up alone and hurting. Alone and hurting. I think everybody could relate to those words. Alone and hurting. And after 20 years, my wife said to me, "You're killing yourself and everybody around you, and I can't take no more. I'm out of here." And I spent 6.5 years in prison, and she would come every other week, 400 miles, and lug 2 little kids and packages to come and see me. And now she's telling me, "I'm out of here. Can't do this no more." And I'm thinking, you're going to leave me? Like I was a prize, right? You're going to leave me? What's the matter with you? And then I realized, okay, now I'm free. So I got myself a little apartment, and I really went off the deep end fast. I was already on the deep end. I really started killing myself then. And there was one night that I remember it well. It was rainy. It was a bad night out. And I said to myself, "Danny, you're doing too much dope. Just drink tonight. Don't do no dope." And so I called this lady up that I had been kind of talking to, and I said, "Would you like to go to dinner?" She said, "Sure." I said, "Okay." So I went down, I put a suit and a tie on. I went down, I got a cab, I went and picked her up. We went to a restaurant, and we're sitting there eating, and she's talking to me, and that dope that I had at my house was calling me. She's talking, the dope is going, "Danny!" And I'm going, "Huh?" And I'm talking, "Danny!" And I rushed through the meal, and we went back to my place, and I said, "Sit down, honey, have a seat." And she sat on the couch, and I went into the bathroom with my little thing, and I stepped into the shower fully clothed, suit, tie, and I hit that pipe. And I was probably in the bathroom 20 or 30 minutes, sweating like a bastard. And this poor lady, I have no idea who she is. This poor lady was sitting on my couch, and to her it must have been like Dr. Jekyll went into the bathroom and Mr. Hyde came out, right? Because I came out of the bathroom with my eyes like this, holding my pants as I tiptoed. Yeah, because my pants were making too much noise. So I'm holding my pants as I tiptoed right by her, like she wasn't even there. And I go to the window, and I peeked out the window, and just as I peeked out the window, the lightning struck, and I said, "Oh shit, they just took my picture." And you know what this lady did? She was like, "Oh my God," she got up and walked out. And you know what I did? I went to the door and bolted it up, and I went, "Thank God she's gone. She was fucking my head up." People, these are not wrinkles on my face. These are Venetian blind marks from years of peeking out the window. I was lost. Alone and hurting. The end result. I was alone. I was hurting. The only thing that would take that away was another hit. And you all know that only lasted a second or two, right? I had some friends of mine down in Florida. They were from my neighborhood. They were making money down there. They said, "Come on, Danny, we're making money down here. Come on down." So I said, "All right." So I went down to Florida. I had my eyes on this nice restaurant there. It was right underwater. And I got myself a nice apartment and development on the second floor. And I went back to the Bronx, and I come from Little Italy, so that means that if a lot of people that move to my neighborhood, they move from Italy right to my neighborhood. So there was this guy named Luigi, and he just moved to America with his wife and 2 kids. And I said, "Luigi, I got a deal for you. You come down to Florida with me, and you bring your family down, and you run this restaurant. It's yours. Just give me an envelope every week, and that's all I want." And he said, "Danny, all I care about is I want my kids to be good in America." And I had a part to play in those days. "Luigi, don't worry about it. You stay with me. Not only to be good, they'll be rich." And I packed this man and his family up and moved them to Florida. And we took this restaurant. And all I was doing was smoking coke every day, every night. And I was there about a year. And I used to meet this Colombian guy at the restaurant, and I'd get a package of dope from him. And the reason I share this so vividly is because it's so important to what happened to me. And I met the Colombian guy. He gave me a big thing of coke. And I went to the office in the restaurant, and I broke a nice big rock off, and I took the rest and I pushed it up into the ceiling. I had the drop ceiling. And I went home. And, I talk about the angels, right? The angels, how they protected me, even during bad shit, right? Something happened to me that night that I felt like, if I do a hit of that, I'm not gonna eat for the next 3 days. I need to make something to eat. So I took this bag I had, and I put all my dope in there. I put my scale in there, all my paraphernalia. And then I did something I never did ever before. I put my pistol in there, too. And where I come from, you never put your pistol, you never give up your pistol, because the biggest insult in the world is to get shot with your own gun. But I put it all in this bag, and I went downstairs to the guy who lived under me, and I said, "Hold this for me. I'm going to eat something. I'll come down and I'll take care of you." He said, "Yeah, no problem, Dan." And I went back upstairs, and I started cooking. And the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, came over and busted me. And they ran through my house, and they found nothing. But they cuffed me, and they brought me down to Miami, and they had me in a room, and they had Luigi in another room. And the agent said to me, "We found a kilo of coke in your restaurant." And me, being the stand-up guy I was, I said, "I don't own a restaurant. If you found something in a restaurant, it's not mine." And he says to me, "We know that you own that restaurant." I says, "I don't own any restaurant." Long story short, after a while, my lawyer was there and he got me out. They couldn't charge me with nothing. But they weren't letting Luigi go. He had I don't even know if he had his green card at the time, but the restaurant was in his name, the Coke was in the restaurant, they were charging him. And I went back to the apartment, and I knocked on the guy's door downstairs, give me that bag. And I went upstairs, and I felt like the biggest piece of crap I ever felt in my life. And the phone was ringing. I knew it was Luigi's wife. I couldn't answer it. There was nothing I could do for him. I come from the world, save your ass, right? Get another hit, save your ass. And so I'm sitting there, and for the next 2 days, I'm smoking rocks so big they're melting down the side of the thing, and I'm just trying to not feel. I got a bottle of vodka, I got a crack pipe, and I got a pistol, and I don't know which one to suck on next. And I had a little terrace there, and it's the third day, then dark, nighttime's coming, it's the night of the third day, and the crickets, as soon as it gets dark, the crickets came out. And I've been there for a year or more, and I heard the crickets every night. But that night, because I kept thinking any minute Luigi's going to give me up and they're going to come back, right? But he never did. And the crickets started cricketing, but I didn't hear it to be the crickets that night. What I heard that noise to be was the crackling of the police radios, and I knew I was surrounded. And I'd hit the pipe, and I'd grab the pistol, and I'd go out to the terrace, and I'd look to see, where are they? Because I made a decision. You know, the book talks about we made many resolutions, but I made a decision. And the decision was, I ain't going to jail. That I'm going to hold court right here. I'm going to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner, and somebody's dying with me tonight, but they ain't taking me in. And as sure as I'm standing here today, that's where I was. And I'd go back in, I'd put the pistol down, I'd hit the pipe, I'd pick the pistol up, I'd go back to the terrace, and this is going on for I don't know how long. And then I heard these words, and I wasn't hallucinating. I heard somebody say, "Okay, Sarge, let's go." I thought, that's it, this is it. And I go out to the terrace, and I reach over the terrace, and I'm about to start shooting. And I look down, and I see one guy there. And I hesitated for a second. And I thought to myself, one guy for me? Don't they know who I think I am? And in that second that I hesitated, he said it again. He said, "Okay, Sarge, let's go." And his dog came. The guy was calling his dog. His dog's name was Sarge. And I don't know who this man is. I'm hoping one day somebody come up to me and say, "I lived in Florida. I had a dog named Sarge." When was that? You know. Because I don't know who this guy was. He never looked up. He never saw the bug-eyed crazy man on top of him. He don't know he came this close to dying that night. And I can't tell you how I did what I did next, except to tell you that the angels came and touched me. Because I went back in the house, and I picked up that 300-pound phone, and I called New York, and I called my brother, and I said, "I'm dying down here. I need some help." Now that, you don't know me, so let me try to tell you that in itself is a miracle. Because up to that moment in my life, I had been a tough guy my entire life. I made a living hurting people. For me to reach out to somebody to help me was way beyond me. I know that God was up there going, "I think he's had enough. Go get that kid." And my brother said, "Okay." He called me back a couple minutes later. He said, "Okay, I'm taking the red eye down. We got a flight back first thing in the morning. I got you a hospital bed, and you're all set to go." I said, "Okay." And my brother's flying down overnight, and I looked at all the dope I had. You know, I hear people share about, you know, I flushed it down the toilet, I put it in, I threw it down the drain. I got all this dope. I'm going, "My brother's coming down. I got to finish this before he gets here." And my brother came down the next day, and we got on the plane. And this was way before all the 9/11 and all that stuff. So in those days, you could do things you can't do today. But I had my little Coke and my little crack pipe on the plane, and with 30,000 feet up, and I went to the bathroom, and I hit that bad boy. And I couldn't come out of the plane door, the bathroom door, because I thought if I opened the door, everybody's going to be looking at me, right? So I'm stuck in the bedroom probably about 30 minutes or so. We landed in New York, we got in the car, and we drove into Manhattan, and he pulled in front of the hospital, and he said, this is it. And I said, no, I can't go in now. I'm too fucked up. Drive around the block. And he drove around the block a couple of times, and he said, this is it, Danny. You got to go in there. And I can't tell you how I got out of that car and walked into that hospital wired up for 4 straight days, except to tell you that the angels touched me. I really believe that because I couldn't do that on my own. And the angel touched me, and I went into that hospital. And I crashed. And for like 2 days, I think I didn't do nothing. I couldn't go anywhere but the bathroom, really, and drink water. And then the 3rd day I was in the treatment center. I went to the first meeting that I ever went to in my life. I never even heard about 12 steps. And it was 2 old ladies came and brought an AA meeting that night. No, it was 3 old ladies came and brought an AA meeting there. And if I live to be 150, I'll never forget what this lady said. She said, I'm positive, there's no doubt in my mind, that the 3 most important things that I do each morning when I get up is to make my bed, put the cap on the toothpaste, and hit my knees. And I'm going, I'm fucking out of here. What is she, crazy? I'm dying over here. She told him I'm putting the cap on the toothpaste. And I got up, walked right out of the meeting, and I was going to leave. And I can't tell you why I didn't leave, except to tell you that the angels came and stopped me. Because I stayed there. I didn't go back to the meeting, but I stayed there 28 days. And I ain't going to lie to you, I didn't learn nothing in treatment. What happened was one of the days that I was in there, another AA meeting came, and a guy that brought the meeting I was in prison with. And he used to sell me stolen merchandise after we got out of prison. And I didn't see him in a long time. I thought he was dead. And I said, I thought you were dead. I didn't know what happened to you. He said, no, I've been here. I'm holding a seat for you. Of course, he became my sponsor. But I didn't learn anything in treatment. You know, I did not. I learned 2 little 3-letter words, why and try. Because the counselors would say, Danny, this is what you got to do. I go, why? And I go, if you want to be sober, Danny, you got to do this. Can you do it? And I go, well, I'll try. And, you know, it is funny because, you know, let me give you my analogy of my first step. I call it my Houdini analogy. What I mean by that was, before I got sober, you could have put me in a straitjacket and handcuffed me and fold me over in half and wrap some chains around me and padlock it and put me in a chest and wrap some chains around the chest and padlock it and kick it off into the water and watch me get to the dope house before that hits bottom. I was Houdini. Nothing would stop me. Because I'd go through anything and nothing would ever stop me from getting high, ever. Nobody ever said to me, Danny, would you like a drink? And I'm, why? And I say, you want a hit? Oh, I'm trying. No. I made it happen. And the lesson there is a lesson maybe one of you could get. Don't try to get sober. Make it happen. Every possible thing you need to get sober and change your life is right here in this room tonight and available to each and every one of you. Make it happen. So I didn't learn anything there, really. I just took that, and I want to share. I'm not going to share the steps with you because that's not my job here. But I do want to share, you know, what happened to me in the second step, because in the second step, see, I'm not stupid. You can't fool me. Talk about higher power. I know you're talking about God. God died for me when I was 10 years old. My dad was God. I didn't come to recovery to find God. I just came to recovery to get this 2,000-pound gorilla off my back. You know what a 2,000-pound gorilla does? Any damn thing he wants. So I didn't come here for God. And so I had a little problem with the God thing. And a guy said to me, not my sponsor, but a guy after a meeting one night says to me, Danny, you got 2 daughters? I said, yeah. He said, if your oldest daughter became a prostitute, would you hate her? I said, of course not. If your other daughter became a junkie and was hitting people upside the head, taking their purses and stuff, would you hate her? I said, of course not. He said, do you believe in God? And, I'm brought up a Roman Catholic, so of course I believe in God. So I said, yeah, there's a God. So he says, well, let me see if I got this right. You believe that you have the power to love your children unconditionally, regardless of what they do, but you don't think God has that power to love you back that way? And for the first time in my life, I had to take a different look at this thing that I call God. And what I realized that very day, that night, I realized that God loves me however I am. God's love is unconditional for me. And for you, by the way. I don't know if you got there yet. But God loves me regardless of what I do. I could be robbing a bank right now. My God loves me just as much as he loves me right here sharing with you. Think about that for a second. And I believe that with every fiber of my being today. So if you get to that point and you really believe that, then there's only one question that you can ask yourself. It's not about, does God love you? The question to ask yourself is, how do you love God back? And this is what our program teaches us, to help others. To take somebody that's broken and help them become whole. To take somebody that's lost and help them find a way. To take somebody that's hurting and help them heal through this process of recovery. That's how I show God that I love him. That's how I love God back. And the third step, is the saying in the room, it's still the same saying going around the rooms. You hear people all the time say, give it to God. You've heard that before, right? Give it to God. And so I had this big problem one time. It was a huge problem. I have no idea what it was anymore. But at the time, I just remember it was a big problem. And I shared that with my sponsor, and he says, well, what are you going to do about that? I said, give it to God. And he said, okay. Didn't say nothing to me. About a week later, still got the same problem. I went back to my sponsor. What's up with this? I said, I gave this to God a week ago. And he looked at me and said, Danny, God don't want that shit either. And I learned something else that night. What I learned is that in the third step, there's nothing in the third step that relieves me of taking action. I'll give it to God. No. We don't do that. We have to take the action, check our motives, do the best we can, and the results are none of our business. You see? So, but when I came to the first meeting I went to when I got out of treatment was an AA meeting. So, and you know what I learned in that meeting? Something hit me. And it was, I'm in a meeting, I got sober in New York, and so there's big meetings, 100 people in the room at least. And I walked into this room, and you know what I knew? Wow, I'm in the room with all these people, and not one person is mad at me. That couldn't happen in a family get-together or a social get-together. I walked into a room full of people, and nobody was mad at me. One night, I'm sitting in my first year, I wanted to get high every day. Every day. And somebody be sharing, I'd smile and nod my head, because that's what everybody was doing, smiling. They say, how you doing? They're good. 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 And I'm smiling and nodding my head one night, and I wanted to get high really bad. And I said, as soon as this friggin' meeting's over, I'm going to get some dope. And it's always been one prayer or another, one addict or another, one alcoholic or one meeting or another. For some reason, I always found it more necessary not to. And what I learned that night, sitting in that meeting wanting to get high, was that I'm better off. This was an AA meeting, but I used the same thing in the CA meeting. But I said to myself, I'm better off in this AA meeting wanting to get a drink than I am in the bar wanting to be sober. So if it would be CA, I'm better off in this CA meeting wanting to get a hit than I am at the dope house wanting to be sober. Amazing how that helped me. That helped me a lot. Right before my second year sober, I went to Oklahoma from New York, and I was only supposed to be there 2 weeks. I was there 15 years. And I moved back east after 15 years. That's why I know God's in control. And but when I was there, a month or so after I was there was my 2-year anniversary. And I wanted to go home to my home group in New York and celebrate my 2-year anniversary. So I flew back to New York, and I celebrated my 2-year anniversary. Those of you who know me, I always carry my coin in my pocket. I always carry my coin in my pocket. And I got my 2-year chip. We had a birthday cake that night. That's how we celebrate there. And so the chip is in my pocket from the night before, and I took my daughters out shopping, and we're in Manhattan, and they're running in and out of these stores, and I'm on the sidewalk, and all of a sudden I got hit with a desire to get high so bad that I counted my money. I said, when the kids come out of the store, I'm going to tell them I don't feel good. I'm going to take them home. I'm going to go get loaded. And then I remember reading in the book that it said there's going to come a time, and everybody's sobriety, that you're going to have a desire to use that nobody can do anything about, but God can. So I looked up and I said, God, please help me, because I really don't want to get high as much as I want to get high. And I was about 2 stores up the block, and I looked to the corner, and there was a guy who had this tripod thing set up on the corner, and he had these little wooden boxes that they all had like a picture of an animal, and they were shellacked, and he was selling them. But right in the middle of his board, there wasn't an animal. It was writing, but I couldn't read it from where I was. And it kind of caught my eye. So I walked up to it, and I want to read this for you because it saved my life. I walked up to this thing, and the box said, in big print, it said, "The letter. Dear friend, how are you? I just had to send a note to tell you how much I care about you. I saw you yesterday as you were talking with your friends. I waited all day hoping you would want to talk with me too. I gave you a sunset to close your day and a cool breeze to rest you, and I waited. You never came. It hurt me, but I still love you because I am your friend. I saw you sleeping last night and longed to touch your brow, so I spilled moonlight upon your face. Again I waited, wanting to rush down so we could talk. I have so many gifts for you. You awoke and rushed off to work. My tears were in the rain. If you would only listen to me, I love you. I tried to tell you in the skies and in the quiet green grass. I whispered in leaves on trees and breathed it to you in colored flowers. Shouted to you in mountain streams and give the birds love songs to sing. I clothe you with warm sunshine and perfume the air with nature's scents. My love for you is deeper than the ocean and bigger than the biggest need in your heart. Ask me. Talk with me. Please don't forget me. I have so much to share with you. I won't hassle you any further. It is your decision. I have chosen you, and I will wait. I love you, your friend, Jesus." And so I bought that plaque. I'm not sure if anybody here has been to my house, but a lot of people from Europe have been to my house. If you ever come to my house, and this was 29 years ago, it's hanging next to my front door. And I've moved all over the place since then. It's always hanging up to my front door. I bought that plaque. My kids came out of the store. They said, "What's that, Dad?" I said, "Just a little something I needed." You see, God did for me what I couldn't do for myself because I asked him, and because up to that point in my sobriety, I had been doing the right thing. Going to meetings, going to hospitals and institutions, working with sponsees, working with a sponsor, reading the literature, praying to God, trying to be a better person. And God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. That's a powerful reading. I went back to I went back to Oklahoma a couple of days later, and that was in November because my birthday is November 21st, is my anniversary. In December of that year, a month later, I got indicted by the federal government in southern New York, and I had to fly back to New York and surrender myself to the feds. This is for old stuff from records of my past. And I had this judge, and my lawyer said, you know, he's not a bad judge. Maybe we could get a good deal here. And then the judge died. And they appointed a brand new federal judge. And if you're not familiar with America, a federal judge is a judge forever. So this guy was brand new and just appointed to my case. And my lawyer was like, no, we got to postpone the court date. We can't go in front of him. Let him get some people in front of him before we... I said, no, we're not postponing nothing. I said, get me the best deal you can and we're done. And the charge was 7 years. It carried 7 years. No, the charge, I'm sorry, carried 10 years. And I had to do a probation report, they call it, with the probation officer. And the probation officer makes a recommendation to the court. The probation officer that I sat in front of, he was like, how do you stay out of trouble for 2 years, a guy like you? Because I never worked in my life. I did 2 years before I was even 16, you know. And he said, I said, I changed my life. He said, what do you mean you changed your life? I said, I don't drink and I don't do drugs. How do you do that? I said, yeah. I go to a program. He said, are you a friend of Bill's? And I said, yeah. He said, me too. And he recommended 7 years incarceration. The thing was 10, right? Or more. He recommended 7. And so I fly back to New York, and this is before the internet kind of thing, you know, so people were actually calling the judge and mailing letters to them. It was before email, right? And I got in front of the judge, and he said, stand up, you got anything to say? I said, all I can tell you, Your Honor, is that paper in front of you is me. I did that. The guy in front of you is somebody different today. He said, well, the probation officer recommended 7 years. I got all these letters from you. I hold up a stack of mail like this. He said, I read each one of them. They're very impressive. He said, but I got a guy like you in my courtroom. You're not getting anything like 7 years in here. And I knew he was getting ready to hit me with some hard time. And then the angels came. I saw them come because they touched this man, because as he was raising the gavel to hit me with this, whatever he was going to hit me with, he shook his head and he said, and I don't know why I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And he hit me that last second with 5 years suspended sentence and a fine, a large fine, a very large fine. It was a humongous fine, but I won't even tell you because you wouldn't believe me if I did. But I went, yeah, and my lawyer went like, holy shit, and he like hugged me, and then the judge went like, you know, what did I just do? Lock him up till he pays some money. Now listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you, if you're in here and you got to go, before this happened, right, I'm going to meetings and I'm telling people what I'm going through, and you know, people tell me, don't worry about it, Danny, you're doing such good things for people. God's going to step in and help you. Don't worry about it. And one guy in the AA meeting said to me, maybe God wants you to carry the message in prison. Leave it to a drunk to mess shit up, right? So I want you to understand something here. I'm not standing here telling you because you're sober and because you're in the program and you got to go in front of the judge that you're going to get off. I ain't telling you that. Maybe God wants you to carry the message in prison. I don't know. I can only tell you he didn't want me to. And what happened to me, I went back to Oklahoma, and I think like a year later, I was diagnosed with cancer. And a colon cancer, and I went to see the oncologist, and the first thing she said to me when she walked in the room, she said, there's no nice way to say this. I looked at all you. There's not much we could do for you. You probably got about 6 months to live. I said, okay. And she sat down with her back to me, and she started filling out a chart and asking me questions. And she says, like, do you smoke? And I was like, yeah. So how much you smoke? A couple of packs a day. She went, a couple of packs a day? And I said, yeah. She says, how long you been doing that? I said, probably 40 years. 40 years, 2 packs a day. She turned around, she said, you have to quit. I said, why? I'm going to die in 6 months. What am I going to quit for? I ain't going to quit. And 3 times a year, I'd have to go and get a colonoscopy, bone marrow test, and 12 tubes of blood. And on my 3rd wake up in the recovery room from my colonoscopy, I woke up, and it was the same doctor that found the cancer to begin with a couple of years before that. On my 3rd time, when I woke up, the doctor said to me, he said, when did you have chemo? I said, I didn't have chemo. Why? He said, your cancer's all gone. I said, I don't have chemo. I've got God. Yeah, and that's the truth. That's what happened to me. They gave me 6 months to live, and my cancer's gone. And that was a long time ago, and it has never come back. Yeah. So, you know what? I want to talk to a lot of new people here. I want to tell you, please don't get caught up in all the bullshit. Because there's a lot of bullshit in these rooms. There's so much greatness and so much goodness, but there's a lot of bullshit. Don't stay away from that. Don't get too caught up, because, we get sober, we get busy, right? And you get don't forget where you came from and why you're here, right? I tell you a quick story. There's a guy, he's a workaholic. And he pulls into his driveway. And he gets out of his car with his attaché case, and his little boy comes running up to him. He says, Dad, can we play? And the guy says, I'm busy. I don't have time, son. And the kid's pulling on his leg. He says, oh, but Dad, yesterday you said we can play today. Please, please. And they walk into the house, and in the hallway of the house is a little table. And on the table is a magazine open, and the magazine's open and there's a map of the world on the page there. And the guy looks at it, and he takes the page, and he rips it out of the book. He rips it in 100 little pieces. He gives it to the kids. Go put this together, and we'll play. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, the kid comes back downstairs. He got it all taped together. He looked, Dad, I got the map together. He says, can we play now? And he finally gets the guy's attention. The guy says, wow, how'd you do that? How'd you put that together so quick? The kid said, it was easy, Dad. On the other side of the map of the world, there was a picture of a man. I put the man together, and the whole world fell into place. That's what we do in Cocaine Anonymous, people. We take the broken man and the broken woman, and we put them back together again. If anybody's sitting in here tonight feeling like Humpty Dumpty, I want to tell you that all the king's horses and all the king's men can't put your sick ass back together again. But we can, because we have a way out that really works. We have a way out, without a doubt, works. Millions have proved it before you. And I want to tell you this. I saw this thing I love going through the internet, and I do that all the time. I'm a writer, so I work from my house, and sometimes I take a break from my writing, and I just go around. And I found this thing, and I went, wow, it's so powerful. It's so true to me. It's so true for me. And the guy says, I asked for strength. God gave me difficulties to make me strong. I asked God for wisdom, and he gave me problems to solve. I asked God for courage, and he gave me danger to overcome. I asked him for love, and he gave me troubled people to help. What I realized is all my prayers have been answered. They've all been answered, just not the way I thought. Don't plan the results, people. Do the work, and the results are going to be amazing for you. I want to tell you, there's no doubt in my mind. I'm positive beyond any doubt that the 3 most important things that I do each morning when I get up is to make my bed, put the cap on the toothpaste, and hit my knees. Thank you for letting me share with you.